Long ago, in a bustling town woven with dusty roads and palm-fringed markets, there lived a young woman named Tisa. She was, without question, the finest hairstylist in all the surrounding lands. Her talent was a thing of legend. People would travel for days, crossing deserts and mountains, just to sit beneath her gifted hands. She didn't just style hair, she sculpted art. She braided patterns that mirrored the flow of river currents, the elegant sweep of a bird's wings, or the gentle curve of the moon's smile.
Ho, ho, ho!
Her skill was simply unmatched, and her little shop was always full of eager customers. And so she prospered. At first, Tisa braided for the pure joy of creation. Seeing a customer's face light up in the mirror was her greatest reward. Then, as her fame grew, she began to braid for praise, soaking in the admiration of the townsfolk. But soon, praise wasn't enough. She started braiding for profit. And that profit slowly, insidiously, turned into annoying hunger. A hunger that morphed into a relentless, insatiable greed.
Ho, ho, ho!
As the seasons turned, a shadow fell over Tisa's heart. Her obsession with wealth consumed her. The warm, welcoming smile she once offered to every customer vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. Her prices began to rise. First a little, then a lot, and then again and again, until only the wealthiest merchants and their families could afford her services. The ordinary people, the women who loved beauty just as much but had no gold to offer, began to beg.
Ho, ho, ho!
But Tisa had no time for them. She'd sneer, her voice dripping with disdain, "I do not braid dusty heads," mocking their poverty. She turned away hard-working villagers, grieving widows, and tired mothers holding their small children. Her heart had hardened into a stone. Still, she wanted more. Her shop grew larger and more opulent. Her coffers grew heavier with gold coins. But with every coin she added, her heart grew emptier, more hollow. The joy was gone, replaced only by the clinking of gold.
Ho, ho, ho!
One scorching afternoon, when the sun beat down and the sky glowed like a furnace, a mysterious old woman appeared at the edge of town. She was covered in the dust of a long journey, her feet bare and cracked, her body stooped with exhaustion. Her hair was a tangled, matted mess, like a forgotten forest choked with weeds. With slow, deliberate steps, she made her way through the crowded market and approached Tisa's grand shop. She bowed her head humbly. "Please, daughter," she whispered, her voice as cracked
Ho, ho, ho!
and dry as the parched earth, "braid my hair. I have walked through many villages. My head is tired, and my spirit needs rest." Tisa looked the old woman up and down, her nose wrinkling in disgust. "You smell like dry goats," she scoffed loud enough for everyone to hear. "I do not braid hair for free." The old woman simply nodded, her eyes filled with a deep, ancient sadness. "I have no money," she said gently, her voice unwavering.
Ho, ho, ho!
But Tisa, blinded by her greed, turned her back on the old woman right there in front of the entire market. A hush fell over the crowd. People stared, some with shame, others with fear. The old woman sighed, a sound like the wind rustling through dead leaves, and spoke, her words carrying a strange weight. "One day, child, your greed will braid your fate." And with that, she turned and walked away, disappearing back into the shimmering heat. Tisa just laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Old witch, let fate try."
Ho, ho, ho!
Those defiant words echoed through the marketplace. The wind shifted, carrying a sudden chill. But Tisa, busy counting her earnings, ignored it completely. The very next morning, something strange began to happen. A curious customer arrived, a woman with impossibly long, flowing hair. Tisa, seeing a chance for a huge profit, quickly got to work. As soon as she finished, another customer with equally long hair walked in. Then another, and another. Soon her shop was overflowing.
Ho, ho, ho!
A seemingly endless river of people from distant, unknown towns swarmed her doorway like ants. The money poured in faster than she could count it. Gold glittered everywhere, piling up in corners, filling chests to the brim. Days bled into a week, and then two. Tisa barely slept. She braided and braided and braided, driven by the relentless chase for more profit. But there was something even stranger happening. None of her customers ever returned with their hair undone.
Ho, ho, ho!
Their intricate braids stayed perfect, as if frozen in time. Forever. It wasn't long before Tisa became the richest woman the entire region had ever seen. Her wealth was legendary. But there was a catch. She could not stop working. The line of customers never ended. Every single morning, her doorway was packed with silent, waiting figures. Her hands ached with a deep, burning pain. Her back stiffened into a permanent arch.
Ho, ho, ho!
She was exhausted, a prisoner in her own luxurious shop. Yet her greed would not let her refuse a single customer. One night, utterly spent, Tisa finally locked the doors to her shop. She stumbled into her back room, where mountains of gold and silver filled the space, shimmering in the dim lamplight. She ran her hands through the coins, a triumphant, weary smile on her face. She had won. She was the richest of all.
Ho, ho, ho!
But suddenly, she heard a voice. A soft, ancient whisper from the shadows behind her. "Are you satisfied, child?" Tisa froze, her blood turning to ice. She spun around. There, standing in the corner as if she had always been there, was the old woman from the market, looking completely untouched by time. Tisa shrieked and fell backward in terror. "You!" she gasped, pointing a trembling finger. "You cursed me!" The old woman didn't move, her gaze calm and penetrating.
Ho, ho, ho!
"You cursed yourself," she answered, her voice quiet but firm. "You braided greed into your very soul, and greed does not rest." Tisa began to sob, the weight of her exhaustion and fear crashing down on her. "Please," she begged, "take back the curse. I'll give you anything." The old woman replied, "No curse is stronger than the heart that chooses it." She stepped forward and gently placed her hand on Tisa's head. "You must give freely as you have taken."
Ho, ho, ho!
And then, as mysteriously as she appeared, she vanished into thin air. The next morning, the villagers gathered near Tisa's shop, expecting to be turned away as always. But this time, Tisa herself stepped outside. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her face held a new resolve. Her voice shook as she made an announcement that stunned the crowd. "Today, I will braid the hair of those who cannot pay." The poor and the forgotten stared in disbelief.
Ho, ho, ho!
Was this a trick? The widows, who hadn't felt beautiful in years, began to weep with quiet joy. Children, their hair tangled and unkempt, rushed forward with hopeful eyes. And so Tisa began to braid. She braided until her hands were raw and bleeding. She refused every offer of money. She kindly turned away gifts of food or fabric. For days, which turned into weeks and then months, she served freely, pouring all her skill and energy into making others feel beautiful.
Ho, ho, ho!
And slowly, magically, the endless line of silent, mysterious customers disappeared. The curse broke, shattering like a cracked shell. With each free braid, Tisa's heart began to soften. Her spirit, once heavy and empty, began to heal. And true beauty returned to her shop, not the cold, glittering beauty of wealth, but the warm, radiant beauty of kindness. She braided for the joy of it once more, finding her reward in the grateful smiles and happy tears of her customers.
Ho, ho, ho!
And from that day forward, Tisa, the finest hairstylist in all the lands, never turned away anyone again. Not once, not ever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. We'll see you in the next video.
Ho, ho, ho!